Ah, Pokémon, the preeminent franchise for collecting and catching them all, and one of my favorite game series of all time. A fun-loving franchise for kids to make friends, learn lessons, and make those adorable monster friends battle it out for our amusement. But, like most things for kids, as shitty adults, we have to ruin it by pointing out all the, weird things. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today. Things like, how is Pokemon battling different from dogfighting? It's not. Why are there ghost Pokemon? Did they used to be other discrete Pokemon and they became these different ghost types? Why Cubone wearing the skull of another Pokemon? Why is Lieutenant Surge a lieutenant? That implies there's a Pokemon military. Do we wage war on other humans with Pokemon as weapons? Do we use guns on Pokemon? There's some fucked up shit going on in the Pokemon world, but I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm here to talk about the fact that humans in the Pokemon world eat Pokemon. And it's this weird state of half canon, half not canon, but the topic is brought up enough for me to say, yeah, they eat Pokemon. And that's fucked up. Or is it? Is it any different from eating any animal in our world? Yes it is. Pokemon clearly hold another level of sentience, communication ability, and societal standing that is just so different from animals in our world. Pokemon are not the same as animals, and in fact, they're treated much better than animals. They also understand language, which is, whew. However, I'm not here to break down whether it's right or not to eat Pokemon. People do it, and if you're gonna do something, you should do it with all the right information. So let's ask the real hard question. Which Pokemon should I eat? That's right, it's time to finally break down what Pokemon are good to eat, which ones are gross, and which ones are just rocks. Around the Monitor is somewhat pleased to present this special video event, which will take a deep dive into the world of Pokemon and how to eat your way through it. This is the Pokémon Edibility Tier List. Timeout. Okay, before we get to this list, we gotta set some ground rules about these little monsters. Why, you ask? Because there's 900 of these bastards, and in order to make this list, I had to take every single one and put them into a spreadsheet. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh, surely it'd make more sense to group them up by type or something. Yep, that's true. But it's also how a coward would make this list, because I didn't want to miss a single one of those Pokemon that are, inedible and gross on the cover, but are secretly delicious. So I spent multiple full work days, definitely not doing this at my day job, reading every single Pokemon's Pokedex entry to figure out how to classify all of them, which was more work than I should have done, but look, that's what I did, alright? So in order to keep this video under the 4-hour mark, I will not be going through every single Pokemon and explaining why they're in the tier that they're in. You're welcome. Instead, I'll take a few examples of each tier that really give you a feeling of what each tier is all about, and I'll try to fit in as many of those on screen as I can, but spoilers, some of these tiers are very, very big. So let's get this tier list started, and we're better to start a Pokemon eating tier list than with a deeply, deeply troubling tier. At the bottom of our list is question mark. Now I hear you asking, what's in the question mark tier? Well, if you've played Pokemon and if you're watching this video, God, I hope you have, you're familiar with a lot of Pokemon, and you've probably noticed that a lot of them are, let's just say, humanoid. And a lot of them they're just fucking humans. So welcome to the question mark tier. That's humans, or the Vore tier if you prefer. Frankly, I don't know how acceptable it is to eat humanoid Pokemon in the Pokemon world, but it sure as shit makes me uncomfortable, so I shoved them all in here. I'll leave it up to you where this tier should go overall, basically. So I'm sure you're wondering how many Pokemon qualify for the Vore tier, and the answer is it's about 60. Not including Legendaries, I'll have to come back to those, don't worry about it. This tier is mostly made up of fighting and psychic types, which Nintendo seems to love making into humanoids for some reason. The bottom of this tier looks like your Metachams, Alakazams, and Lucario. Lucario, a Pokemon capable of telepathic communication, and one who also understands human speech. So this thing can detect you wanting to eat it, signal back it does not want to be eaten, and then feel sad when you Vore the fuck out of it. This is also the tier where I discovered that the Pokemon Throw canonically makes its own clothing and sweats. And it collects that sweat in parts of the clothing that turn dark over time to show its age and experience, so that belt used to be just as white as the rest of those clothes. How dare society force me to learn this? So the middle of Vore tier is what I call the sexy Pokemon, and all the starters I consider to be too humanoid to be comfortable eating. This is where Gardevoir and all the sexy Pokemon live, and any Pokemon that has, let's just say, an uncomfortable amount of furry suit energy, like Delphox or Incineroar. Hey Game Freak, why are all your fire types so horny? But a special shout out to Inteleon, a Pokemon you can eat who knows how to use a fucking gun. And the absolute top of the Vore tier, look, I'm not telling you to eat humans, but if you're gonna do it, you might as well get as close as possible to the real thing. And if that's what you want, go no further than the OG Horrormon, that's Mr. Mime. I'll never be comfortable with this guy. But the Vore tier is awful and I do not want to stay here, don't worry, we'll unfortunately have to come back later. Oh boy. But for now, let's move on to a tier that actually felt like progress instead of me, wondering if I would eat a Hypno or not. The Z tier. Things you just can't fucking eat. Alright, now look. Lots of Pokemon, they're just fucking rocks, or steel, or a literal fucking sword, which while useful in the kitchen, that is not food. And this is a list of Pokemon you can eat, so we gotta get rid of the ones you can't eat, and there's about 100 Pokemon that you just can't fucking eat these. Alright, the absolute bottom of this tier is stuff like Onyx and Steelix. Very big, very not edible, you will break teeth. Almost every rock type is here. Look at all these assholes. That's ass you can't eat. And then there's the middle of this tier, which is all the Pokemon that are just covered in steel, like Empoleon, the evolution of Piplup, who has razor-sharp blades and fur that is apparently frozen to the point of being hard as steel. Is that edible? Do I have to thaw out my Empoleon, or is it just a big steel boy? Disqualified. But there's also stuff in this tier like Skarmory, a bird made of metal. But is there meat underneath there? Can I boil this bird and pop it open like some sort of forbidden Chef Boyardee to eat the innards? Unclear, and also unlikely, but that does bring it to mid-tier. And then atop the Rock Mountain lies the top of this tier, where it's all ghosts all the time, baby. Most of these are just like a cloud or ephemera or bullshit. Can I eat a haunter? I don't think so, but at least if I tried to, I'm probably just like biting the air. Unless something like Cofagrigus, which is both a ghost and a sarcophagus? What am I even supposed to do with that, Game Freak? And that question is an excellent segue to our next tier, the X tier, as in solve for X, because much like my math homework in high school, I have no fucking idea. The I don't know tiers where we start to find Pokemon that just give us a logistical problem, like Cyndaquil, its evolutions, Torkoal, any Pokemon that is always on fire and a lot, it's here. Are these things even cookable? I mean, Typhlosion has explosions going off in its body all of the time, literally all the time. Surely its body must be tough as hell, like blast-proof rubber or something. It's probably not food. Oh, how about Chestnut? A Pokemon named after a chestnut, a delicious wintertime treat, but Chestnut is covered in steel plating that can canonically withstand a bomb blast and is stronger than a 50-ton tank. Is it even possible to crack this delicious nut open? Also, Pokemon, why do you have to mention there's 50-ton tanks in your world? Why do you need a tank that big, Lieutenant Surge? This tier is also populated by stuff like Pumpkaboo, which is somehow a ghost, but also a pumpkin, or Jellicent, a Pokemon that's comprised of being mostly seawater. Ooh, how about whatever the fuck Crabominable is supposed to be? That is not a crab, that's nothing. There's lots of X animal, but full of Y element. This is also where I discovered that Pokemon loves to have creatures with sacks full of fire, electricity, or whatever the fuck inside them, like Togedemaru, which builds up lightning in its internal sac until it expels all of it at once. But the absolute worst of this is Darumaka, which is like our previous Shocky friend, but with fire. That part is whatever, but the fucked up part is that people will collect Darumaka's droppings and keep them in their pockets. Why? And of course, there's always the king of I don't fucking know. It's Diglett, or Dugtrio, dealer's choice. Is it a rock or a hot dog? What's going on underneath that little rock head? The world demands answers, Nintendo, and you're not gonna give them. Diglett doesn't tickle your fancy? How about unknown? Come on, guys. It's unknown. Everybody loves unknown. The fuck is this thing? Honestly, I could go on with this tier, but really most of them aren't that interesting. But I do want to talk about Sinistee first. You know, a little teacup with a smile, all full of ghost-type goodness, until it evolves into Polteageist, and you realize that the tea liquid is the Pokemon, and it's just possessing the teacup/pot. If I drink it, will it possess me? I don't know. I don't want to know. So it lives in the X tier. Fuck off, Sinistee. Alright, let's get on to the most literal tier. Why? As in, why? Why would you eat these? I mean, you can eat these. This is the first tier where everything is edible, but what are you even doing? I feel like there's no better standard bearer for the bottom of this tier than Pineco and Fortress. At best, they're a Pinecone and whatever the fuck Fortress is supposed to be, but they're also the bagworm type Pokemon. You do not want to eat bagworms. I hope I didn't have to tell this to you. And there's lots of those in here, basically Pokemon that are a plant, just not a plant you eat. Seedot is an acorn, Eldegoss is a cotton puff, and so is Cottony. Fuck's sake, guys, try a little harder next time. Levani is just another Pokemon that is a leaf. Shedinja is a hollow cocoon. Turtwig and its evolutions are basically the same, but once you get up to Torterra, you're eating a whole-ass garden, so that does something for you. Speaking of starter Pokemon, we have Rowlet and its evolutions in this tier. Owl is known for being gross and stringy and not good to eat, but now you can have all that while eating this adorable little thing. Why? And then there's all the Pokemon that are just based off animals that are gross to eat. You have your camels, bats, you have hippos made of sand, big ugly buzzards, rats. Seriously, there's so many rats, an uncomfortable amount of rats. And Aromatisse, which is the equivalent of eating a scarf soaked in perfume. But on top of them all is the most classical fucking Y, Honchkrow, or any of the other crow Pokemon, there are several, which are just the equivalent of eating crow, but for real. You can already do that in our world, it's just gross, and you shouldn't. Oh, also, Zach noted that the hat on Honchkrow is actually part of its body, so do with that what you will. And speaking of things you shouldn't eat, of course I couldn't fit all those Pokemon in just one tier. Of course not. The Poke World is filled with shit that'll kill you just for putting it near your face. And what's better than... Oh, better watch your feet there. There's muck all over the ground. And you know what muck spelled backward is? It spells welcome to the F tier, where everything will kill you. God, that whole set of jokes just sucked. Okay, F tier. Pokemon loves to have monsters that are just big pile of poison or magma or some slime rancher bullshit. But I do want to talk about Magcargo real fast, whose internal temperature is estimated at 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly twice as hot as the surface of the sun. How the fuck is this thing alive? Then we have the small army of poison types like Whirlipede and all of its bug friends, Gulpin and Swalot, who are just in the category of pile o' goo, or a literal garbage bag. And seeing as how Trubbish is from Unova, based on New York City, that bag is like probably at least 50% dirty needles. And also with the Poison Boys, we have Toxtricity, a Pokemon that is made of poison and lightning. Now, if you want to die, that is one way to do it. He's also an excellent segue into all the Pokemon that are just actively made of lightning, or shooting out lightning. I mean, don't eat a Rotom. He's a ghost at best, or a fucking washing machine at worst. Now, originally I wanted to have the Alolan Muck at the top of the lethal tier because, yeah, I mean, he's just a big pile of poison goo, but that is some tasty looking poison goo. But this is where reading every single Pokedex entry, you know, helps out a little bit because I learned about the Solosis evolutionary chain. So it starts with Solosis, who can read your mind, sort of Lucario thing there where it knows you're gonna eat it, and in fact it could stop you if both of its brains wanted to, which is fucked, but it evolves into Duocean, more of the same, and then finally into Reuniclus, which looks whatever, it's just like a type in some goo, what's the big deal? Well, let me just read you its Pokemon Shield Dex entry. It is said that drinking the liquid surrounding Reuniclus grants wisdom. Problem is, the liquid is highly toxic to anything besides Reuniclus itself. This implies that people have tried to drink this thing and died, or at the very least, we know these dudes eat one another. And that's basically all the lethal tier, but I did want to show you all this picture of Salazzle. Look at this sassy motherfucker. Alright, moving on. And we're moving on to a tier that holds a special place in my heart. Remember when you were a kid, you watched cartoons, and all the cartoon food just looked so delicious? They even managed to make those bugs Timon and Pumbaa ate look so tasty? Well, I have a whole tier for that. It's the Hakuna Matata tier, because there's too much shit in Pokemon that's maybe edible, possibly not, but it sure looks tasty, and it goes here. Now, I'm sure you're hoping for a great Hakuna Matata example, so let me offer up Tangela, a scrumptious little dish. Just imagine slurping this big spaghetti up in one long slurp like how they eat noodles in my Japanese anime, but also, that is just vines, so I can't call it tasty, but I can call it Hakuna Matata. There's a lot more grass starters in this tier, mostly because I'm pretty sure these guys are just made of nothing but grass, but I can see them being tasty in a weird way, kinda. Chikorita and his friends, maybe they're like grass dinosaur sausage, I don't know. Snivy, Servine, Superior, big noodly boys, and then Trico's line, because frankly, I didn't know where to put Sceptile, but his Pokedex entry does mention the seeds on his back are filled with good nutrients, so good on you, I guess, Sceptile. I just realized that Sobble and Drizzle are also in this tier. I don't remember putting them here, and I don't know why I put them here, but the only note I have is not top tier frogs. So yeah, they're not top tier frogs, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about bugs. Those delicious, tasty bugs you'd love to dine on with a meerkat and a warthog. Caterpie, a classic green friend. How about Ladybug? That's a fat bug right there. Shelmet? Give me a shell, yeah. Or what about Snom? You guys know Snom. This icy looking butt dude will cool your drinks down before you slurp him down too. And Phalanx? Phalanx? Wait a minute. That's just a Mario enemy with a spiky hat. Nintendo, you scamps. Gastrodon are these slimy little boys just begging to be slurped down, and seeing as Gastro is in their name, I'm gonna say they're either delicious, or they're gonna give you stomach issues so bad Taco Bell can only dream of it. Oh god, these are all just bugs and plants. Okay, we got Cacnea and all the cactus friends. Love to see Nopales popping up in cuisine. How about Gumi and Goodra? Ah, Goodra. You can have all the fun of eating this pudding jello monster, and also, you get to eat a dragon. Hell yeah, Goodra. But this tier is all about eating with your eyes, and how can we move past Hakuna Matata without talking about Kecleon? This Gen 3 nightmare can be any range of colors or looks, and that's just the spirit of this tier. Also, its flavor text saw fit to tell me that when it fights, its color changes to let you know how healthy it is. And I'm choosing to believe that means you can get this thing to a perfect medium rare every time. That's outstanding. And if the idea of roasting a chameleon creeped you out, well boy do I have a treat for you. Welcome to the E tier, and by E I mean, this is the tier for weird food perverts. Oh, do a Pokemon tier list, Chris. It's a great idea. We're gonna have a great time. This won't take all friggin' day. You won't be sweating your ass off. As full of stuff like, I mean, sure, people eat this. But most people are eating it because they have to, or because it's the only food around, or to satisfy some deep, weird perversion. And I don't want to harp on cultures that eat different things like cat or dog. Boy, there are a lot of cats and dogs in these games, but if you're in the Pokemon world and you're choosing to eat these things, you are a food pervert. And if you need a real example to drive this one home, may I give you Cubone, the Pokemon who wears the skull of its mother, thanks for that, Game Freak. Originally, this was in the Y tier until David, known human and eater of foods, offered up in our Discord that Cubone would be great for bone broth. Cubone and its mother, that is. I rest my case, food pervert. There's tons of starters here, so I'm just gonna run through them. Chimchar and all the monkey-type Pokemon, Piplup and Primplup, they're just fucking penguins. Litten, Torracat, and the millions and millions of cats of Pokemon, they're all here. Poplio, Oshawott, and their evolutions present an interesting question. Is it okay to eat Pokemon that have endangered counterparts in our world? And I actually have no idea. So we're gonna grade them as food, but still shame people that eat them. Don't clubs feel, you pervert. Man, there's a lot of cats in here. Okay, I'll tag on with don't eat lions, but also don't eat an Eevee or any of the many evolutions, but especially Sylveon. Sylveon, who has these little ribbons that look cute, but they are in fact, and I quote, ribbon-like feelers. No! And just to top this tier off, let's talk about Pikachu. Now, Pikachu isn't technically a starter besides yellow, but come the fuck on. It's also a rat, which is gross. But that rat's got some chonk, and there is nothing more perverse than devouring a piece of your childhood. Okay, no more perverts. It's time to kick this thing into high gear, more or less, because it's time for us to get to the real food of the Pokemon world with D tier. That's probably food. Okay, this is the largest tier. Feel like I should explain that now, because there's a lot of bullshit in this tier. So these are the Pokemon that have no real life analog for me to work with, but still feel like they'd probably be food, but they have one or two aspects that make me go, maybe not actually. Like the recent edition of Sandaconda. Now, I've had Snake, it's pretty good, but this guy also has an internal sand sac. Seriously, Game Freak, what's with all the sacks? Can I eat around it? I don't know, but I'm willing to say, yeah, probably, so D tier they go. Another great example of D is Ditto. You guys remember Ditto, this stretchy boy. They can mimic the appearance of any Pokemon, but wait, oh, what's that? Oh, it's Weird Game Freak again. Actually, Ditto copies the genetic code of the targeted Pokemon. Does that mean it takes on the flavor? Unclear, but at the very least I'm willing to say it tastes like tofu. Probably food. This is also where all the dragons that didn't look exceptionally tasty went, but like I still want to eat a dragon. So Salamence is here, who definitely looks less tasty than something like Dragonite. And I hear you saying, well, Salamence looks pretty tasty, there's some chalk there, why do you get put down here? Well, let me offer you this image of Mega Salamence, this frisbee looking motherfucker. And no one has ever been excited for a game of Ultimate Frisbee, followed by a dinner date where you eat said frisbee. Now, Wobbuffet is an interesting case in that it has buffet in its name. It also looks pretty tasty, kind of chewy maybe, but Wobbuffet's main move is Destiny Bond, which means if you kill it, you also die. So if you can find a way around that, you're probably in business, but also looks kind of rubbery, probably still food. Okay, I was putting this off, but here's all the starters in this tier. Froakie and his chain, as well as all the frogs that aren't confirmed to be poisonous ones. I'm assuming at least some of them are tasty, so they all go here. Politoed is probably the tastiest or something. Look, this script is like 20 pages long. Get off my back. We got Fennekin here, the only one in its chain that doesn't have hands, so it's not in Vore tier. Also Blaziken, which I determined to be closer to Vore tier than any of its kin, but it's still just a bird, so probably food, possibly an ethical problem. Let's see, we got the Bulbasaur line, which might just be plants, but they also look like dinosaurs, so I'm willing to say I would Monster Hunter the fuck out of this dude. I also put Blastoise here because the big steel cannons confuse and scare me. There's all the sea life that is sort of on the cusp of being delicious or just problematic, like Horsea, because Seahorse offers really no nutritional value, but that doesn't change the fact that Kingdra looks like it might be some kind of tasty. I also want to talk about Girafarig for a couple of reasons. First one being, this is not a fucking giraffe. It's a horse, if anything, and while giraffe is said to be tasty, horse is gross. I also discovered that the head on its tail has a small brain in it as well. And Game Freak, what the fuck? What is with your fucking flavor text? Do I eat half of this thing? Which half is the good half? No clue, but that really is the spirit of D tier, because I'd probably eat half of it either way. And with that, we finally claw our way into a tier that, while not very exciting, is definitely food, because we're in the C tier, and hey, that's food. These are all the mons that you look at and just go, oh yeah, I could totally see that being food. Like Magikarp, which is just a fucking fish. But then it evolves into a big dragonfish. Cook either of these fishies over a fire, because that's food, baby. There's lots of fish or other sea life here because they're just like fish or crabs or some shit. And I would eat all of them, but especially Clauncher, this little crawdad looking motherfucker. Look at this guy. A lot of the birds ended up here because most of them are just like a dove or a chicken or something. Also, Torchic and Combuskin are here because, yeah, they're just chicken. But I do want to highlight Toucanon. Not for any taste reasons, but I just love that Game Freak was like, let's design a Pokemon that looks like a pissed off Toucan Sam. Let's see, I put most of the bears here because bear's pretty tasty as far as game meat goes, but Stuffle and Beware cause a problem, mostly because of the whole teddy bear thing, but I'm choosing to say that's a form of camouflage rather than an actual animated stuffed creature because I just can't with that today. And then we have all the plants that are just like a mushroom or a bell pepper or something. I mean, they're food. I don't have much else to say here, guys. That's food. And then at the top of the basic food tier, we have all the dragons that look tasty. Also Charmander and its evolutions because it's just Dragonite with less fat and a worse temper. But food is just food, and I can eat all the boring Pokemeals I want, but we're looking for the best of the Pokemon cuisine world. So what sets apart an average tasting Pokemeal from an exceptional Pokemeal? Well, let's find out as we ascend into the B tier. Them's good eats. Now these are the Pokemon that will leave you after a meal going, damn, that was a good meal. I loved the Tauros steak, and that Slowpoke tail, that will bring me back to this horrifying Poke restaurant every time. And lots of Pokemon in here are just evolutions of Pokemon that placed in C or D tier, like your Crawdonts or Sea Kings, which are just bigger, tastier versions of their earlier form. Also, all the turtles ended up in this tier because I guess the Poke world is just overflowing with ways to make turtle soup. This does include Squirtle and Wartortle. Sorry, Squirtle Squad. And speaking of starters, Totodile and that whole chain are delicious because Gator is delicious and I'm not giving you another reason. But it's not all water types here because we have Tepig, Pignite, and Emboar for a good old-fashioned pig roast and a pulled Pignite sandwich. Rabbits and ducks are in B tier for overall tastiness, and guys like Farfetch'd really stand above the crop due to the fact that it comes with a leek for roasting it with. That's like a whole pack-in meal. But also, there's Ducklet, and I would eat the fuck out of that duck. So as long as we're talking about birds, we gotta talk about Cramorant. Looks pretty tasty on its own, that's great and all. And you realize its whole gimmick is swallowing other Pokemon. This big bird can get you 2/3 of the way to a turducken all by itself. Now that is a value meal. And just to complete the whole set of Pokemon that are confirmed tasty in their own world, Tauros and Slowpoke, we mentioned them earlier, Chansey, and I'll put all the other egg types here. Then there's Tropius, whose fruits are confirmed to be delicious, but that does seem a little short-sighted. I think we can eat most of this big tree dinosaur, Hakuna Matata. The prime meats of stuff like Go-Goat or Sawsbuck or Miltank really evoke a rustic dinner sense, while dining on a Lapras can finally answer the question, what does the Loch Ness Monster taste like? Commit heresy and dine on the holiest of escargot with Lord Helix. Okay, did I get all these fuckers? Oh, Dragonite! Okay, come on. Look at this fucking dude. Eat with your eyes and tell me you don't want to eat this big chunk. Has Monster Hunter given me a weird thing about eating dragons?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. And those are the good eats, but we're only at the B tier, so there has to be something better. And as we all know from school and the most important piece of culinary literature, the food pyramid, there's always something on top of the food world, and that's sweets, baby. So let's head over to A tier, sweet treats. Starting off in Gen 1 with Exeggutor. Now, I'm not sure how eggs become coconuts, but I'm willing to climb that tree and find out. Combi and Vespiquen are oozing with sweet honey, and Combi already comes in like pre-packaged honey containers. That is handy. Cherubi is a cherry? What do you want from me? This is a cherry. You are a cherry. Vanillite and the ice cream gang gets a lot of hate online, and I'm not sure why. Guys, just like, pour some fudge on it or something. It's not that hard. At least get some sprinkles. Swirlix and Slurpuff look so fucking tasty. And the fact that Swirlix is cotton candy and then Slurpuff is a meringue shows this is a Pokemeal that matures as you do. That is fantastic. I couldn't remember why I put Morlul and Shiinotic in this tier until I had to reread my notes to discover that ingesting these is basically the same as magic mushrooms but in the Pokemon world. I mean, I guess they go here. Hell yeah. Bound Sweet is up here, tasty little fruit type, but not its evolutions because Sarina is regarded for its beauty even in the Pokemon world. Look, I just organized 900 Pokemon on taste. I cannot deal with the fact that people in the Pokemon world also want to fuck Pokemon. Moving on, disqualified. Milcery is just a sweet cream that is said to bring good luck to any patisserie that it visits. I mean, it's sweet cream, that's the whole Pokemon. What am I supposed to do with that? And to end this tier, we have a primo trilogy here. Starting off with Applin, who's just a lovely little apple, but he can evolve into either Flapple, a fine looking option, looks great, or Appleton. Look at this thing. This is an apple pie dragon. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't want to eat this thing, you are just wrong. And that's it. That's the Pokemon. I'm sure I somehow missed some, and if I didn't mention one you love or want to know about, look, it probably wasn't worth mentioning, but yell at me in the comments and I'll let you know where it goes anyway. But I did leave some very important Pokemon off of this list, and that includes some of the most iconic Pokemon. Of course, I'm talking about the Legendaries because look, I know you sickos want to hear about which Legendaries you should eat, so let's do it. Let's eat God! Or like the 25 different gods that are in Pokemon. I was trying to do a thing. Pokemon sucks, guys. I feel like this is a great time to note that I applied to work at Eater and Vox never responded to my application. Adamusa, answer my calls. Anyway, it's time for the main event, the real in-depth look at these eats. Let's talk about the rarest of Pokemon dishes. There's 90 of these, and I have notes for pretty much all of them. The star tier, all the legendary Pokemon. So for the ones that are basically connected, I'm going to be grouping these together so it's not a nightmare. For example, we have the 3 legendary birds from Gen 1. You know them, you love them. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, boom. They're basically just big bird plus element though, and honestly, like a lot of the other animal plus element ones from before, they kind of belong in the I don't know tier, but I try not to put legendaries there, so I'm calling these probably edible. Even if Moltres dunks itself in lava for funsies, Articuno looks pretty tasty, so probably food. Also from Gen 1, we have Mew and Mewtwo. Mew, considered to be the first Pokemon created by Arceus and said to be the smartest Pokemon of all, and then Mewtwo, who was made in a human Pokemon gene splicing experiment and can fucking talk.
I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant.
Honestly, Mewtwo is probably more likely to eat you than you are to eat it, but either way I'm throwing both of these into the Vore category, and I don't want to talk about it. In Gen 2, we meet the 3 legendary dogs, which is the same thing as Zapdos and the lads, but also dogs, so into Food Perverts you go. Lugia is just a big cold bird. I'm gonna assume it tastes like some kind of game bird. It might be tasty, probably pretty gamey, but that's food, baby. Next we have Ho-Oh. Now looking at this bird can either grant you a wish or eternal happiness. Can you imagine what eating this big magic chicken turkey dinner thing would do for your cholesterol? That is absolutely top tier, and we will revisit him in a little bit. Last in Generation 2, we have Celebi. Little time traveling onion. Edible? Unclear. Looks tasty in a cartoon way? Abso-fucking-lutely. Hakuna Matata, you go. Oh boy, Gen 3, when Legendaries began getting truly fucking wild. First up, we have the Regis, that's Rock, Ice, Steel, and Fizame, which are respectively Rock, Ice, Steel, and Ghost type. All inedible, moving on. Latios and Latias are very fast birds, and that is fast food, baby. Kyogre and Groudon are the first real god Pokemon, sorta. More importantly, they are the embodiments of surf and turf, and that is good eats. Rayquaza is a big dragon sausage. Now, we all know my whole thing about eating dragons, but regardless, this is definitely food, and it looks pretty good. Jirachi looks like the Pow Pow fruit from Kingdom Hearts, which always looked tasty to me, so I'm gonna put it in sweet treats, but even if it isn't that good, you can write like little wishes on its head ribbons, and it'll grant them. So at the very least, you can like wish for a cheesecake. Let's see, Deoxys comes in many forms, all of them a mutated DNA virus from outer space, which cannot be good, that is lethal. Moving on to Gen 4 with Uxie, Meesprint, and Azelf, the late guardians of Sinnoh, and the Pokemon responsible for all emotions, knowledge, and willpower. I'm just gonna call that Vore and say don't eat these, because you shouldn't eat the thing that gives you the power to know things. Okay, hear me out. Dialga is a big god of time with steel plating. That's a problem. But it looks vaguely like an Apatosaurus, and if Fred Flintstone can eat it, I'm gonna assume I can do the same. So Dialga, probably food, assuming you can get around that whole steel plating situation. The Space God Palkia's flavor text notes that every time this Pokemon breathes, it makes the universe more stable. And I don't know what that means, but can you imagine how good that would be for your IBS? That's food, possibly good eats. Heatran is canonically just a big steel boy with boiling magma inside. Do not open the soup can. Lethal. Next, Regigigas. Fuck off with the other 3. I mentioned earlier I didn't want to put legendaries in the I don't know tier, but Giratina is a ghost dragon. How much of him is ghost? How much of him is just metal spikes? No clue. Disqualified. Cresselia is a magic space bird whose feathers can create dreams. That's gotta be good for at least being normal food. Fion and Manphy are just 2 sea friends, best eaten together, possibly over a nice linguine alfredo. That's good eats. Man, Gen 4 has a lot. Okay, Darkrai is up next, a ghost made of nightmares. Also, it can grow legs like this. So fuck off, disqualified. Let's talk about my boy Shaman. This little walking Cobb salad has the power to detoxify anything. I don't care if it tastes like nothing. You could sell this for $1 million a bite at some LA spa. Fuck Gwyneth Paltrow, this boy's good eats. Ah, Arceus, the god of all Pokemon, creator of Mew, and the Pokemon with the power to be any type, and therefore any flavor. He also gets bonus points for being a god, and who does not want to sup upon the flesh of a god? Mild food pervert energy aside, that's good eats. Alright, finally moving on to Gen 5. Fuck me, we're only in Gen 5? Fine. With Victini, the infinite energy Pokemon, who is both fire and psychic type. I'm relatively certain if you bite into this little guy, it'll nuke the universe. Lethal for you, and everyone else. Cobalion, the first of the Swords of Justice, has a heart and body made of steel. This goat is a nope. Virizion is a leaf that knows how to fight. Might be able to kick my ass, but it's still just a fucking leaf. Terrakion, you are a rock. Tornadus is made of clouds, this is a vape type. Thundurus is made of clouds and lightning, and I couldn't think of a good enough eat lightning and crap thunder joke, so you can just fuck off to the inedible tier. Reshiram and Zekrom are the dragons that will come at the end of the world. They are the inevitable heat death of the universe. Also, their flavor text really likes to mention lightning, so... Look, y'all, they're probably food. Sure. Next. Landorus is just the other two cloud guys, but also has rocks, just to give you options of what you can't eat. Qrem is just made of ice and hollow spaces. That's literally nothing. No one has ever wanted to eat a My Little Pony and not been a pervert. Meloetta can sing you the most beautiful song you've ever heard before you vore the hell out of it. Genesect. Mecha over here was once a rare bug Pokemon, now it's a death bot. Inedible, but its signature move is called Techno Blast, which sounds like Game Freak couldn't get the rights to base canon, and is very good. We've made it to Gen 6, and the superior of the Legendaries, fight me, it's Xerneas. This big magic deer will eventually be born out of a tree for some reason if you kill it. And as far as Pokemon go, that's renewable resources on this slab of venison. Good eats for a good boy. How do you say this one? Yveltal? Fuck. Okay, this edgy bird sucks the life out of all living things and then goes into a cocoon for 1,000 years or whatever. But like, it's still a bird, so I don't know, probably food. Some of these do not give me a lot to work with, alright? Oh, Zygarde. This thing is made out of a slime-like substance and will change form and evolve over time, even if it's destroyed. For some reason, it's also the guardian of the environment. I don't know how to feel about this, but I do know the phrase slime-like substance is enough to go straight to Food Perverts. Diancie, you are a dancing rock. Hoopa comes in two forms. First is the confined form, which is Circus Vore, and then the unbound form, which is the scariest fucking Pokemon I could ever imagine. What is this? Hey Game Freak, why did you make the Hadron Collider into a Pokemon? No one needed this. Up in Gen 7 we meet the Tapus, who are like the many guardian spirits and fairies you met earlier, and also gods again. And frankly, I'm not sure if these are Vore or like eating a tiki idol, so I'm just gonna say no. Type Null and Silvally are man-made Pokemon, which is all kinds of problematic with the whole Fullmetal Alchemist Chimera thing going on here. Let's just call it Food Perverts and get it off of our screens. Cosmog and Cosmem are made of pure stardust, but Solgaleo is somehow made of steel and radiates the energy of the sun, but someday it'll also eat the sun? That's confusing, but I guess if you figure out a way to eat this thing, you will just get cancer and die. Lethal. Lunala is also made of stardust, who'da thunk it, but get this, it's also a ghost. Fucking no. Oh boy, it's time for the Ultra Beasts. You guys know the Ultra Beasts, everyone's most beloved legendaries, like Nihilgeo, a ghost rock poison jellyfish. What? Also, this image here. What? Fuck this thing, disqualified. Now, a question I get a lot is, hey Chris, are there any Pokemon that satisfy my dark urge to eat other humans, but I could also share with Timon and Pumbaa? Yeah, it's Buzzswole. Buzzswole! Hey, same question as the last guy, but can it also be a sexy lady? You betcha, Pheromosa. Xurkitree, bad name, bad everything. Do not eat electrical cables. Did I add Digimon to this list accidentally? What the fuck is happening? Celesteela, it's a fucking rocket ship. This origami-looking motherfucker is actually sharp enough to cut through steel. Useful in the kitchen, not fucking food. Guzzlord. How dare anyone or thing be named Guzzlord? Fuck off, disqualified. Necrozma is made of either light or crystal, either way it's inedible. This is a robot. You know, it's been a while since there was another fucking ghost type. How about one that's also a child? Marshadow. Back to the Ultra Beasts with Poipole and Nagandel. Space poison. When you don't just want to die, you want to fucking die. It's called Stackataka. Stackataka is a big pile of rocks. A pile of rocks. This is a legendary. What the fuck? I can't with these fucking Ultra Beasts. It's Blacephalon. Look. It's weird. It's weird and Vore. Weird Vore. Put it up there with Mr. Mime. Seriously, did I add Digimon to this list? Alright, Zeraora is up next. And if you hated the My Little Pony one, look at this yiftrosity. Meltan and Melmetal would like to remind you, keep liquid metal away from your orifices. Life tip. And finally, we make it to Generation 8. The most recent legendaries. We're almost there. You've got Zacian and Zamazenta, which, okay, look, a lot of dogs in Pokemon. Don't eat these tired old dogs. Eternatus is some more prime what the fuck material, and honestly, I don't know what the fuck, but it is a poison dragon that came from outer space and wields the, and I quote, power of eternity, whatever that means. Not edible, definitely lethal. These next few aren't technically legendaries, I don't think, but who gives a shit about anything anymore? From the Sword and Shield DLC, we have Cubfu, who's just a bear that knows Kung Fu. They just made Pancham again, but this time he's not a panda. Zarude Sandstorm is an event Pokemon that's just a big monkey, so it's gonna go with the rest of them. Food Pervert, get out of here. This is not a joke. Between me writing and recording this video, Game Freak released more Legendaries. So we got 2 more Reggies, and guess what? They're both inedible. Goodbye. Glass Dryer and Spectrier are some new legendary horses. One is ice, one is a ghost. Both inedible, both a waste of my time. Calyrex is a rabbit, I guess. Big ass head. Now, this boy is a grass type, so I'm just gonna say that thing on his head is like a big salad. So I'm seeing like a rabbit salad with most of the work done. Them's good eats. And that's it. Every single Pokemon organized and ranked. But I did say we'd have to come back to Ho-Oh. That's right, we're not done. My work is never done because I have saved 10 Pokemon for the very top tier. You betcha, it's time for the S tier, the real Legendaries. Now I didn't intend for this to be 10 Pokemon, but it sure happened. And most of these are Pokemon that are known for being extremely delicious in Pokemon canon, or a Pokemon that's a variant form of an already delicious Pokemon. Now we talked about Ho-Oh, the world's most delicious chicken/turkey, which can best be served with stuffy, graving, all manner of sides, and those you love just gathered around. But that's played out. Let's take a trip to Galar and enjoy some of the rare Sirfetch'd. So Farfetch'd gets points for basically being a dinner ready to go, but Sirfetch'd has a fancy sword garnish. That is some fine dining shit. I recommend the Sirfetch'd served confit with some lightly roasted cabbage to go with that leek for a nice vegetable side dish. Alchemy is the evolved form of the aforementioned Milcery, but it comes in so many different flavors and has a special Gigantamax cake form. How could it go anywhere else but the top tier? Also, the Gigantamax form can fire missiles loaded with 100,000 kilocalories. I don't know what that changes about this, but I sure felt like mentioning it. Also, no preparation needed, just dive right into this diabetic coma. Kingler. Look, crab is delicious, and there's plenty of delicious looking crabs in the Pokemon universe, but Kingler is the king crab. And if I've learned anything from Deadliest Catch, which I haven't, it's that king crab is apparently worth dying for. So get some drawn butter and just crack into this good crab. Maybe some cloisters on the half shell for an appetizer? Next up is Exeggutor, and I'm sure you're thinking you already put him in A tier. And yes, I did. But we're not talking about your regular Safari Zone garden variety Exeggutor. No. Give me that Alolan variant. See that tall boy? Those are coconuts you have to work for. And apparently, the tail has a face, so there's also that. The chef would recommend grilling the Exeggutor shavings and baking them to a delicious cake, and the bartender has a lovely poke colada this evening. Blissey. Now, Chansey eggs are known for being delicious and highly sought after in the Pokemon world, but a Blissey egg is said to have the power to deliver the greatest form of happiness in a single bite. It's like eating a chicken egg and then eating that delectable pink chicken. The Blissey is best enjoyed by breast and cutlet, served roasted with herbs and its egg balu style on the side, cut and taken bite by bite with the Blissey itself. Also, a Scotch-style Blissey egg with Blissey sausage is known to be an amazing focal point of many dishes. Slowpoke is like Chansey, well known as a delicacy in the Pokemon world, so Slowbro/Mega Slowbro is just a delectable upgrade with the added bonus of having a shelter to eat. That's 2 Pokemon in 1. And if you're wondering why Slowking isn't up here, let me just remind you that he fucking talks, and according to a bunch of Pokedex entries, is smarter than the most brilliant of Pokemon scientists. But don't worry, you can still catch one and have it curb stomp a cat. Anyway, back to eating Slowpoke. There are many known recipes for the Slowpoke tail, eaten with eggs, as a sandwich, in soup, but you simply must try it smoked and done with a rice and a spiced curry roux. Fantastic. It's the big boy himself, Snorlax. This absolute unit eats 900 pounds of food a day, and then he just sleeps. It's like those special Kobe cows that just eat and get massaged all day, but it's fucking big enough to feed like a whole village for a week. If you don't want to eat Snorlax, you are objectively wrong. The kitchen prepares a lovely Snorlax prime rib served with a red wine au jus and some roasted Brussels sprouts and broccolini on the side. Mamoswine introduces a lot of interesting things, such as the fact that there was a Pokemon Ice Age and this thing was hunted, yes hunted, almost to extinction for its meat, but Mamoswine still exists as a rare evolution of Piloswine. So imagine modern cooking preparations and a meat so delicious that prehistoric humans hunted them to extinction, except now, not extinct and ready to be eaten. 10 out of 10, eat with some hearty vegetables, maybe some roasted carrots, asparagus, and sweet potatoes for just that little sweet kick. Now we've arrived at the final real legendary Pokemon, a Pokemon so sought after it could only be here. Tauros appeared in our Good Eats category for its obvious parallels to real-life beef and the canon love of Tauros steaks. But what's better than beef? And what is a food so good it was hunted to the brink of extinction? That's right, the buffalo, or more importantly, the bouffalante. This beauty is based off the American buffalo, which is a highly monitored and protected species for consumption, as most bison people eat today is actually from beefalo, a genetic hybrid of bison and the more common cow. But the bouffalante is that pure uncut shit. the straight no-chaser version of buffalo, and I want to take a bite out of that big, beautiful cow. We recommend serving a boufflant steak over potatoes and mushrooms, maybe on a pois sauce to just really set your taste buds off. And that's it! That is all the Pokemon I'd recommend eating, and some you absolutely should not eat. This tier list took me forever, but I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, subscribe or something. We could really use the validation this wasn't a tremendous waste of everyone's time. But there is one thing that's bothering me about this list. You see, I never organized the S tier. I never really figured out which of the best were the best. So I think we gotta take this one to the lab, or more appropriately, to the kitchen. As much as I don't want to say it, in the future we're gonna have to revisit this list one more time. And next time, we're gonna eat.